I don't know what the best zoo is in America or
Fort
the
Worth
world,
Zoo.
but like, no.
No, absolutely not. Have you been
San
to the
Diego?
Fort Worth?
I think
You
San Diego's
probably-
is probably the top.
I
San
grew up
Diego's
going to the
the
Fort Worth
best.
Zoo, yeah. Never been to the San Diego Zoo. The
The
monkeys look like
king
they're
of
having a
hot
blast.
takes over here.
At the Fort Worth Zoo. I mean, the Fort Worth Zoo is highly ranked. I will say that. Like, if we looked up,
I'd be willing to
if
bet
we
money
looked
that
up
it's not.
top 10 zoos in the country, Fort Worth Zoo would easily be in the top 10.
Be probably 25 or lower.
Yeah, yes, I'm with Zim on this. All right, folks, welcome back to JoyBoyz episode 1 officially. Thanks for those that watched and subscribed on the last episode. We very much appreciate that. And we're about to get into another episode here today. And all three of us just recently were on spring break, so we had a little bit of time off to reflect and get into some things, take some advice about how to start a podcast and some things to change. But for those of us that are all coaching over spring break or really didn't have an opportunity to go somewhere or just wanted to stay at home, basically seeing kind of what we got into. Myself personally didn't go anywhere. If anything, went to Dallas for a track meet, but daycare was still in, so got a little bit of time to kind of kick back and relax. Zim, what about you? What did you hop into?
It was full on daddy daycare at my house. We were one of them the oldest got to go to a camp, so he was at soccer camp all week, thankfully. So it was just me and the other the two youngest at home, and we're still in full-on potty training mode. And so the number of pairs of underwear that we went through this past week was astronomical because this dude was pooping his pants like nobody's business.
I mean, are you counting yourself? Like, was this you too?
I went through a couple pairs as well, but I just wanted to show him this is not the right way to do it. You don't go in your underwear like this. You have to go on the potty.
Just tell him who Miles Davis was, Peeing in your pants is cool, or pooping in this sense, Consider me Miles Davis.
That's right. So it was a whole lot of pooping and peeing at my house.
All right.
There you go. You got to lead by example.
That's right.
For me, I went down to Austin for a couple days, and then went to Houston. And Riley, I know you love Houston. Went to Houston for the Houston Rodeo. Ate a lot of good food. Started off with a corn dog. Then went and had a Monte Cristo. And then after the Monte Cristo, had some pickle pizza, which if you've never had pickle pizza, you need to try it.
Dude, you are on a heap of just bad takes of food. Luby's last week and how a pickle pizza.
What
pickle pizza is good. So
what is wrong with you?
It's your normal take on pizza, normal shape, triangle, crust. But it has cheese, a little sprinkle of dill on it, and then slices of pickles, and then it's covered in ranch.
It sounds awful.
It was good. I couldn't finish the slice. It was a little rich, but it was solid for 4 or 5 bites. And then from there went to the concert. Went and saw Charlie Crockett. Was awesome. Obviously saw the rodeo too, but Charlie Crockett was really good. And then after, went and got some fried Oreos, really good, and then some fried cheesecake, really good. Oh, yeah. And then went home and fell asleep. But that was my spring break. Food.
That place is awesome, man. I mean, for those, if you watch your subscribe, last week, growing up in Houston, that's kind of the rodeo goes all throughout March. So, I mean, depending on when your spring break is throughout March, everybody in the Houston area, or at least within, a 60 to 100 mile radius, goes to the rodeo. So, that is kind of a staple to go. So, being a DFW guy or Mr. Pittsburgh, who is apparently never listened to a single George Strait song, that might be a crime down here in this place.
Not once in my life.
You can get arrested for that.
That's wild. But
maybe that needs to be a segment that we do. We play a George Strait song for Zim, and we get a live reaction from Zim of what he thinks about George Strait.
I don't think YouTube's going to allow us to play George Strait on our podcast and have us still be able to post them. So
yeah, you could just play it in your headphones.
Oh, that's right.
We can do like a JBL, and since it's technically not played through YouTube, we can just say, here's a artist that happens to be good.
That's how that works.
I mean, I guess, okay, so growing up in Pennsylvania, it's a
JBL, it's okay.
All right.
I mean, growing up in Pennsylvania, there has to be a demographic that listens to country music. Did you being in like the Pittsburgh metro area, is that just not like a genre at all that people listen to?
No, I mean, yeah, you get like your pop country stuff. Like what was big when I was still living there? Like Rascal Flatts was big whenever I was living there. Of course, I'm aging myself tremendously right now, but it was like, basically, if you hear it on the radio, that's what country people are listening to.
Okay. So not like a secluded scene of music, kind of like how Texas.
No, you don't have an underground country scene in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. No.
No Pittsburgh country?
No, not that I'm aware of, at least. I may be totally out of the loop, though.
Does Pennsylvania border Kentucky, or am I off on that?
No.
Okay.
You're off.
Because, two humongous country stars are from Kentucky, so I didn't know if that was maybe a little bit of a connection, maybe.
It's close. It's a little bit further south, though. It's more Ohio.
You got D.Y. Yoakam. He's from Ohio. Do you not know who that is either?
Never heard of him.
No.
Okay, so here you go. Give it for the listeners. What is Zim's musical brain? Just where do you go? What was like the biggest band you listened to growing up, or just like maybe a big band that like you just love listening to today?
Like when I was really young, it was whatever was on the radio. But then as I got older, I think when I started listening to my own music and branching out to my own like style, it was going and getting some of my dad's old Nirvana CDs. And that's kind of where I started down that rock path. When I got to high school, though, it was all like pop punk, emo, like Plain White Tees, Phantom Planet. Like that's where I started off. And then it progressively started getting heavier and heavier. I think it started with like Seosin and Hawthorne Heights, and then moved on to more of like A Day to Remember, Bring Me the Horizon, and started getting like super heavy with like The Word Alive and all that.
I love it.
I knew some of those words.
Dude, a ton of bands that nobody has ever heard of except for me probably on this.
Oh, shoot, man. I know a ton of those bands, but that's just because I'm also, I involve myself in the heavy music world,
Yeah.
Beasley, I don't think Beasley's probably, I know, could you name, or did you recognize one band once he started going like into the heavier music?
Yeah, Nirvana.
That's not okay. Heavy, like heavy metal.
No.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't remember most of them.
So where did your musical journey start? I mean, obviously, like, Charlie Crockett, for the people in Texas know that dude started to like really blow up. but like, where's your musical journey? Like, where did it start? What got you into music?
Yeah, I mean, really, Charlie Crockett, I started listening to a good bit in college. Prior to that, in high school, I listened to a lot of country music, and most of it was Parker McCollum, who was kind of on the uptick then. I think Cody Johnson was kind of the predominant one in the Texas country scene, at least from what I was listening to. And then moved into some Whiskey Myers. Really like a lot of Whiskey Myers. Yeah, now these days I kind of stick to the same bands. You know, they're also coming out with new music, some new ones, maybe Treaty Oak Revival, Shane Smith and the Saints. I like a lot. Flatland, Turnpike. But really lately, kind of off of a tangent, not really country music, but in the weight room, I've been jamming this new mix on SoundCloud. Okay, and I don't know, the name is a little off-putting. It may sound a little weird, but it's called Big Booty Mix.
Yeah,
And
usually got that. Yeah.
and I
Are you in pursuit of a big booty?
Yeah, I mean, it's just great music to work out to. They
What's on
have
this playlist?
so it's the name of the people that make the mix is called Two Friends, and I want to say they're on their 25th mix of it, and they just come out with a mix every so many months, and it's a hour-long mix on SoundCloud, and it's just a mashup of whatever the popular songs or kind of the memes are right now. So it's pretty cool to like go back and listen to some of their older ones because you hear like popular songs from that time period, meaning like 5 years ago or so. But I like it because it's just an hour long and you don't got to change the song and it's got some bangers in it.
I mean, bangers of what? Of what? Like, is this like Katy Perry? Is this like
I mean, Katy Perry's in there. I mean,
Nicki
it
Minaj?
varies.
Do what?
I mean, there has to be over. It'll play like 30 seconds of a song, maybe less than, and it'll go to another song, and then it'll go back to it. So there has to be like
Is it like one of those
50 songs within it.
Is it like one of those like volleyball mashups things? Like when volleyball is like, warming up for pregame and they just kind of have that like CD that plays like some mashup and it's like 10 songs, but it plays like 30, 45 seconds of each song.
Yeah, kind of probably similar to that.
All right. Well,
I'll have
found
to play
something
with
new
it sometime.
Beas today.
Bees the bootylicious.
Quite an interesting mix of music. Like,
I will say, when you're in there and you're going on a hard leg day, like there's nothing better than a little Katy Perry roar blasting in your ears.
Oh yeah, no way.
maybe that's
Romeo and Juliet by Taylor Swift.
that's wild, man. I mean, I'm a little, OCD with how my music goes in the weight room. I mean, I obviously gotta have the heavy stuff going, but there's room for the fun times. I mean, I think it's for people who might not be in the coaching world and wondering like kind of what music is played like in a weight room, because it was interesting. I feel like certain places, like you kind of have to kind of slowly walk them into certain kinds of music. And I know at certain places I've been, if I ever got a hold of the music, which I always try and make sure I do at some point, and throw on some heavy stuff, there's always some eyes wandering around like, what is this? Like, this is garbage. And then you stay there for a little while, and by next year or the next kid of classes kind of come in, all of a sudden kids kind of start to like it. So there's a world for metal in the weight room, I would definitely say.
So are you of the opinion then that you play whatever you want to listen to and the kids adapt, or do you play more of what the kids want to hear and you adapt?
I think probably a mix. I mean, as far as the last two places I've been, I have specifically like made a playlist, and it's kind of like a continuous adding, and it's stuff that I know that like the coaches like, I know that the kids like, so it's a decent mix of stuff. So I mean, you might hear like whatever the popular rap is of today for the kids, and then maybe the next song might be uh the Heretic Anthem by Slipknot, just might be a nice
I know
little
Slipknot.
little mix in like that. But I think when kids start to just they let the metal creep in, it does something to their soul in a good way.
In a good way is the caveat you need to put there.
Correct. In a good way. Yes.
That's right. That's right. Oh, that kind of brings up, you said kids kind of growing up in that system and coming into a weight room that has that type of music. I guess let's talk a little bit about one high school towns versus towns that have multiple high schools, right? Where you have kids who know that they're going to be a tiger, lion, whatever, since they're in first grade, right? And then you have these other towns where, I mean, when they're in elementary school, they could be zoned to one high school, and then by the time that they actually get there, they could be going to a completely different school. So I guess in your guys' opinions, what are the differences, the similarities, the pros, the cons to each of those?
I think I grew up in a multi-high school town. We lived on one side of the city, and we lived maybe a 2-minute drive from one of the high schools. And when I was in middle school, I was zoned for the opposite high school on a different side of town. So there's that aspect to it, and then there's the being in middle school, and not everyone you're with at the middle school you're at is going to go to the same high school, and then you're going to run into people when you get to high school that are from a different middle school. So there was definitely that, and then we moved, and then I ended up going to a completely different high school within the town. But there's definitely that to it. You don't know everyone that's going to be in your freshman class with you, and then people that are in your 8th grade class aren't going to be everybody that's in your freshman class. Versus in a one high school town, you've been with them since you were coloring in coloring books. So there's definitely that to it, but it also kind of does create a little bit more of a rivalry within the town, because you've grown up with so many people and you're playing people that you have a close relationship with.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. I think, it's interesting I grew up in also a multiple high school town, but it was, where we lived, you knew like the attendance zone wasn't going to change. And even when they actually opened up the new high school, or a second high school in the town, when I was in middle school, we knew that we weren't going to get zoned to it. So I mean, I knew from a young age where I was going to go, and who I was going to be able to play for, what logo I was going to be able to sport on my helmet and all those kinds of things. And it does create my wife was actually talking about this last night, like a sense of pride and like a sense of identity, kind of. In you just know from a young age like what you're going to be, like you were saying, Zim, a tiger or a cougar or whatever, but it gives you kind of like an interesting sense of identity, because if you grow up in the same town like your whole life, while it's funny to think some people and some kids like hate that, but I think the older you get, you kind of look back on it and kind of cherish it a little bit, because it gives you like a sense of pride of like where you grew up. And I mean, there's a reason why people are so proud to be from like certain towns, whether it's a big place, like a huge metro area like Houston or Dallas, or even a small town like, Sweetwater, Texas, a little tiny town outside in West Texas. Like, I'm sure people are proud to be from there, but they grew up their whole life knowing they were going to be a Sweetwater, whatever they are. But I think the biggest, coolest thing about kind of a small town or a one high school town is just that pride of you know that you get to grow up, and on Friday nights, like, you get to sport that same logo and that same school, you know, that you've been watching your whole life growing up.
Yeah, I can attest to that for sure. So in Pittsburgh, it's a little bit different. Everything's kind of split up into townships. And so the townships are a lot smaller than what our counties are here, or what our towns are here, for that matter. And so, like, for myself, I knew that I was going to be a Tiger since I was in first grade, and everybody took on that identity. So when you were in elementary school, you were a Tiger. When you were in middle school, you were a Tiger. When you were in high school, you were a Tiger. And everyone used the same colors. There was no different mascots growing up. All of the youth leagues in the town used the same colors, used the same mascot, used the same logo. It was all, you're a Tiger from time you're in Pee Wee all the way up through high school. And so it was really cool from that standpoint, because you had that sense of pride in, I'm a Tiger, and I want to be just like those older kids who I watch when you go to the games on Friday nights when you're in elementary school. And I think the town had a big sense of pride for it as well. I mean, I remember going to games when I was in elementary school, and the stadiums were packed, right? And I was in first grade. I wasn't really paying attention to the games. I was just going to hang out with my friends and run around and be causing some ruckus. But just the amount of people who were there consistently at every single game, and the amount of people, like, I remember being in elementary school and traveling to away playoff games, like traveling to Hershey, Pennsylvania for the state championship game. And it was, probably 2 hours away from Pittsburgh. Obviously, that was a state championship game, but, like, I remember going to all of them all the way through. And it didn't matter how good the team was at that point, but there was just, and everyone was kind of like that. Like, the stands were always packed. It didn't matter where we were playing. And so I think that one high school town is definitely it's definitely a little bit of a different feel. That does make me wonder, though, in your coaching career, what do you think has been the coolest either stadium you've coached in or atmosphere that you have experienced?
I would say, growing up, I got to play at Cowboy Stadium, which is pretty cool. And then we got to play at the Star, and then coaching at the Star. Those would probably be my top two, just because of how nice it is. And, you know, as a player and as a kid, you know, it's a really cool experience getting to play where professional athletes have gotten to play. And, you know, you're not in the same locker room, but the locker rooms are still really nice, and so probably the nicest locker rooms in stadiums around here.
True that. Shoot, man. That's a good question. I mean, we never, in the Houston area, you know, we never got to play in Reliant. But we did get to play at I think, just from a unique standpoint, we played in Port Arthur when I was in high school my junior year, and it was like one of the first, like, oddly enough, grass fields that we played on. You know what I mean? In the Houston area, with everything being so humid, it's probably actually smarter to have turf. But it was a unique game in the sense, like, that it, you know, we're playing on real grass and getting, you know, mud stains on our jerseys and everything like that. And it was also, I mean, Port Arthur is like, I mean, that is the freaking deep Southeast Texas, and like, there were so many mosquitoes out there. Like, I was getting bitten, like, mid-play. There was that many. And there's something about my blood that mosquitoes love. So, I mean, I like, came home and I'm like, why do I have all these bumps on me? Like,
that sweet blood.
Yeah, like, what is happening, man? But that one probably, as a player, and I think with you, Beas, I think probably playing in the Star was the coolest, just because it's where, like, professionals play, but it's also kind of almost catered to high school. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not like a 60,000 seat stadium and you get all the nice fancy stuff. You know, you get to use their headsets and all that, and in the place that I've been the most recently, we've been fortunate to have a number of games in there, and we've always done pretty well in the Star. Or I think we've only lost one game in the Star, to my recollection.
Yeah, I would second that. The Star's pretty cool to play in. I think for me, the one that stands out the most, though, would be whenever I was at a school just a little bit north of us. I can't remember if it was, I think it was probably my second year there, and we were playing the rival school that's also in town, and we were playing in a pretty big stadium. We were fortunate enough to have a pretty big stadium that we were able to call home, and we were actually the away team this time. And our school had not beaten this school for the last 11 years prior till we had gotten there. So the year before, we beat them for the first time in 11 years. And so the second year, there was a lot of pressure, right, to do it again. And so we go out there, and it's 0-0 for forever. And I think it may have been 0-0 going into half, potentially. I can't remember specifics. And then they broke off. I'll never forget. They ran counter and broke off a 75-yard run for a touchdown to make it 7-0. And the noise in that stadium, that was the loudest place I've ever heard in my entire life. It was incredible.
Dang.
We ended up coming back, and I think we won like 14-7 or something like that. It was a very low scoring game. They had the ball at the very end of the game and threw they tried to throw like a fade down the home sideline, and we ended up picking it off. Kid slid in the turf to let time expire, and we walked away with a win, like a walk-off. And our whole side just stormed the field. Our trainers were on the ground crying because they were so excited that we beat them again for a second year. But it was the most electric stadium that I've ever been in my entire coaching and playing career.
Was this stadium, have we happened to be at 2 track meets at this stadium this year?
It was the big one, not the old one.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay. I was wondering which of the two it would have been.
The Taj Mahal.
Yeah, of money-wise, being all these new stadiums. Well, going with that, so there's been, I think always something that's, probably unique throughout most of the country too, but I think especially in Texas, just because, football's so big here. But what do you, in just from knowledge, what do you think are the most unique or just funny mascots of Texas high school football? Because there's some odd ones out there.
The first one that comes to my mind that just sounds funny to me is the Cuero Gobblers.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that just Gobblers just sounds funny to me.
There's an interesting one. You got what is it? Shoot, my father-in-law had a deer lease down in Winters, Texas, for a couple years, and they are the Winters Blizzards.
Yep.
Ooh, there you go.
Interesting one. Small town. I think they're like one classification above like 6-man football.
Have they ever gotten a blizzard there?
I think they actually have. It like surprisingly gets like extremely cold out there.
Baytown has a school named the Ganders. How would you like that?
Take a gander.
Yeah.
Take a gander. Yeah, Baytown Lee, I think.
Helmet. Yep, Baytown Lee, the Ganders.
Is that Houston?
Interesting one. Yeah, east, just outside of Houston, like down I-10. Gosh, what are some other interesting ones? Oh, you got the oh gosh, it's like right on the tip of my. I mean, you got the classic Mason Punchers playing in the Puncher Dome.
Raccoons. Frisco Raccoons. Yeah.
That's a good one. You got and I don't know. You tell me if this would be like because I think some of these, it could be unique in the sense of just having a cool name, but it could also be like a confidence killer if you are the unicorns.
New Braunfels.
Yeah, like I don't know, like to me, I'm just like we all know it from fantasy stories. I'm like, man, do I want to be a unicorn? Like I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little rough. Could you imagine being in first grade knowing that you're growing up to be a unicorn?
Yeah, like Mom,
I want to be a unicorn.
Like, can we move so I can go be something else?
Yeah, something a little bit cooler, a little bit more fierce, maybe.
Yeah, for real.
Unicorn could be
my favorite one's sure, yeah, with its one horn and its rainbow tail.
I don't know if that.
I would think.
I'd be like, man, we got to change this, dude. Like, this is rough. This is rough.
I'm thinking of like My Little Ponies whenever I just describe that. That's what I think of when I think
That's exactly what hit my head, too.
I think my favorite ones from out in West Texas, one was the Amarillo Sandies.
Yeah.
And the second one would be the Pampa Harvesters, home of Zach Thomas.
Ooh, Harvester. That's way up in the Panhandle.
Way up there. Yeah, it was a 3.5-hour drive for us.
Gosh.
But, dude, that was a really cool place to play at, too.
Pampa?
Mm-hmm.
What are they? Are they like 4A or are they
4A? Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. Pampa, Texas, man. I think is Pampa or there's some other town up there that has like some record for like the largest cross like off the side of a highway like in America. It's like a 110-foot tall cross, like just right off the side of the road.
Just randomly out there?
Yeah, and I'm surprised it hadn't been knocked over yet by like just the wind up there.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty wild. But you got some crazy names, I think the last animals you got what is it, Roscoe Plowboys. That's a very interesting one. A tiny West Texas town, like right off what is it, I-10 or not 10, it's 20, excuse me. But definitely some interesting names, to say the least. I wonder, like, whenever all these names came up, like, for the weirder ones or maybe more unique ones, like, was anybody kind of, like, sitting in the back, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't name our mascot this?
I mean, surely that came up with the unicorns, right?
I'm starting to wonder, like, what, like, were they just all asleep when that was going on? Like, what's happening?
Was it put to a vote? I mean, who thought that was a great idea?
I don't know, man. Maybe there was just some kid that maybe they gave the choice to a kid, and the kid was like unicorns, and they just went with that.
That sounds plausible.
Yeah,
I mean that sounds like the most plausible. I just don't see, especially a place in Texas that's like, a dude rolling in there with cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, like, you know what, we're gonna name our team the Unicorns. I don't see that working.
I don't think it went that way.
Probably not.
Since we were talking about animals, you had mentioned your would you rather, and I was going to give the floor to you to talk about your would you rather of the week.
Yeah. Would you rather / question of the day, which again, audience, y'all are more than welcome to put in some interesting questions that we can talk about. We did the mascots off of one of the comments, but we actually went, my family and I went to the Dallas Zoo the other week, and I was just thinking, what is better? For you as an animal, would you rather live in the wild and you have the whole landscape to do your thing, or would you rather live in a zoo?
In the wild, 100%. I mean, why would you want to be cooped up in the zoo?
I mean, you have your own enclosure. You are always fed. There's like no predator that's ever going to come and kill you. Like you live the most like luxurious, easy life. And the only people that come to see you is those that feed you or bathe you or take care of you, or people that just love animals and want to see you and are happy to see you.
Yeah. I'm an apex predator. I'd be fine.
What apex predator would you be?
A lion.
Those only last like 10 years and then they get killed off.
That's all right. I'm a king for 10 years. And I've got great flowing locks the entire time.
That is true. That is true. I didn't think about the hair.
A
Beas, what
mane
about
of
you?
hair. Man, I don't know. Well, first, my thought process is try and figure out what animal I would be or what I would want to be. And then that could kind of determine my lifespan if it was smarter to go to the zoo or smarter to stay in the wild. You know, I'm kind of leaning towards like some kind of primate or monkey, mostly just because, you know, they swing around, you know, they're always having fun. They're always with like a group of a pack. I don't know if it's a pack of monkeys, a group of monkeys.
We'll have to get intern
And-
Craig to figure that out.
Yeah. But I think, you know, if I was going on the monkey train, I would probably pick stay in the wild just for the more amount of trees to probably swing around in and climb.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I'd monkey is definitely the way I would go. I mean, you're always away. No predator can get you up there, or at least if they can jump up, they're never going to catch you, you know?
If you're a good monkey.
Yes, true. But you also get your own enclosure and you're always fed in a zoo. You know, like I'm not talking like some piece of crap zoo out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like I don't know what the best zoo is in America or
Fort
the
Worth
world,
Zoo.
but like no.
No, absolutely not. Have you been
San
to the
Diego?
Fort Worth?
I think
You
San
probably-
Diego's
Yeah.
is probably the top.
I
San
grew up
Diego's
going to the
the
Fort
best.
Worth Zoo, yeah. Never been to the San Diego Zoo. The
The
monkeys
king
look like
of
they're having a
hot
blast.
takes over here.
At the Fort Worth Zoo. I mean, the Fort Worth Zoo is highly ranked. I will say that. Like, if we looked up,
I'd be willing to
if
bet
we
money
looked
that
up
it's not.
top 10 zoos in the country, Fort Worth Zoo would easily be in the
Would-
top 10.
Be probably 25 or lower.
Yeah, yes, I'm with Zim on this. You are the king of hot takes.
No, it's not that's a hot take.
Yes, it is.
No,
Awful
the Fort Worth Zoo had like one of the only baby elephants in the country.
Do they sell
It was
pickle
on like
pizza
national TV.
there? They sell pickle pizza at the Fort Worth Zoo.
I've never had pickle pizza at the Fort Worth Zoo. If they did, I would argue that would probably make it the number one zoo in the country, hands down. I wouldn't be arguing top 10 if they had pickle pizza there. I'd be arguing number one.
Beas, can I go back to the monkey comment for a second? What type of
Sure.
monkey would it be?
Oh, that's a good one.
The capuchin,
You know,
Oh,
I'm
what?
not.
the one from Night at the Museum, the one that keeps stealing the keys.
Yeah, I
That was
thinking
the
more-
one that I had in my mind. I'm not super familiar with different monkey species.
Yeah, I was thinking more
You know,
like a baboon with the with
First,
the red
baboon
bottom.
baboon was first to come to the mind. I don't know if I would like that kind of exposure, though.
What do you mean exposure?
You know, exposure.
I don't know what you mean. Expand on that.
Yeah, baboons have exposure. I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about like their butt cheeks.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you're.
Delicious worried about butt cheeks.
I mean, if you're a baboon, you can listen to the Big Booty playlist in the zoo.
That's all they listen to.
That's right.
Oh man, a baboon. That could be an interesting one. Could be. Well, what do you got? So Zim. So we've moved from the animals, and so I guess we're in agreement. I mean that we'd all be out in the wild, which is great. But going from this, because I mean the whole point I brought this up, the question I was thinking was because I brought my family, and my son. He's kind of finally old enough to be interested in these things, and seeing them from reading little books and seeing the real animals in real life and stuff. But as you're growing up, Zim, you had the question that was posed. What was your question that you had posed for growing up?
Growing up, what would you say were your top 3 celebrity crushes?
Zim, I want you to go first because I'm curious about this because you are a little bit older. For the listeners that don't know, Zim is almost 50.
Just
so,
a few years.
I'm probably not going to know any of these people.
All right. So I would say the very first celebrity crush that I ever had was Britney Spears. And I went so far as to buy her CD, first of all, because she makes phenomenal music. But second of all, it came with a giant poster of her. And so that was one of the first CDs that I ever owned was a Britney Spears CD, just so I could get a poster of Britney Spears to hang up in my bedroom.
There you go.
Hell yeah, that's good. So you got Britney Spears. Okay, who else?
Britney Spears. I would say Kate Beckinsale would be on there. From Pearl Harbor. That's really when she blew up. And then Rihanna. Rihanna is the big one. That would be my 1, 2, 3 right there.
That's a solid mix
I like
there.
it. I like it.
I got so when I was thinking about it, I kind of put in my head of like when I was younger to maybe as I kind of got older. And I don't know why. I remember the like really the first crush I could always think back on, because I mean you asked this, and as us, kids growing up, guys have crushes, girls have crushes, and they're all obviously innocent in nature, but the earliest one I could always remember was Jessica Alba. That was my first one, like when I was young, and I want to say it was maybe like Fantastic Four that she was in. That I think that was maybe the first movie that I saw her in. My second one I think is I got older would have been what's her name? What's her name? Ana de Armas, I think it is. She's kind of started, I think making a little bit more movies lately or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be 2, and then from the top rope, number 3, Tim Riggins. That dude, I was in love with. I mean,
I was
Friday
not
Night
thinking you were
Lights.
going to say that,
Dude. I mean, who did not have a crush on Tim Riggins?
He's a great football player.
That's
Great
right.
football player, had the most luscious locks in the game.
That's right.
I mean, would run dudes over on Friday night and then just go do his own thing on the weekends.
Yeah. Beas, what about you?
Man. Okay, so I kind of was thinking back to my childhood, like movies I watched, TV shows I watched. And the first one that came to my mind was and this is gonna opposite of Date Me by Zim. I'm gonna say High School Musical, Vanessa Hudgens.
That's a solid one.
Now Zim was probably already had a 401k when this movie came out, but
that's right.
Vanessa Hudgens was definitely the first one. Then I grew up watching a lot of Full House in my childhood. So Aunt Becky, Lori Loughlin would be the number 2, which is kind of like opposite end of the spectrum there. And then Jennifer Aniston from Friends, number 3.
Yeah. Dude, those last 2, like Laughlin has to be like 60. Jennifer Aniston is pushing that. Like that would be like me coming up here and saying Farrah Fawcett is my number 1.
Okay, what is Britney Spears up to these days?
That's a good point.
Doesn't matter. She's around my same age. Those 2 are both like 40 years older than you.
Well, okay. And I agree though with the Full House. She was definitely a cutie, and she was like just like gave such good like motherly energy and stuff like that. Like it was just like very nice. We're actually getting hail at my house currently. My gosh, good thing I put the truck in the garage. But it's like, can y'all hear it?
No.
No.
All right, well that's good. It's coming down. Well, anyways, about to hit the close here for this episode. But before we go, we do want to thank again Imperial Roofing for being able to sponsor this podcast. We really appreciate that. Again, they're a local roofing company here in the DFW area, but they do work all over the state of Texas, from Austin to Houston, even out West Texas. They're good people. They're a great company. If you ever need anything in terms of roofing, anything on the outside, they're roofing and construction. So they kind of have the whole mix in that. So give them a look. Appreciate them. And then the second thing, we'll leave the listeners with a question of the day for y'all to go ahead and answer. And that would be, who do y'all think would be the greatest Texas high school football player of all time? Doesn't matter position, just greatest of all time.
We'll debate those answers on our next podcast, so make sure that you guys are being active in those comments. Put your names, maybe have a hot take so that Beas can jump on board with it and we can grill him on it in the next episode.
I already have plenty of hot takes in my mind as soon as you ask that question.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. It's already spinning up there.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in again this week. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. Make sure that you guys are sharing with friends, family, whatever you guys could do to help us get the pod out, get the word out about JoyBoyz podcast.
Thank y'all.
See you guys next time.
Peace out, boys.